Well, here we are, another Thursday, another weekly webinar going over the websites. And I will say up front, if I have little people that come in to bother me, I do apologize because you never know what'll happen in my household. So with that, I'll have to put a lock on that door maybe soon.
You know,
But
I love to see your little people drift into view, though. It's fun. You've got great kids, Trish, and it's
oh,
it's
thanks, Dave.
it's fun to turn them into superstars at least once a week, or at least have the opportunity to do that. So,
You never know. But other than that, I think we're gonna talk about, or we're gonna keep going where we have gone in the past couple weeks here. What we have decided to do is take different portions of the control center and go in order, I guess, more or less, different tabs, and start getting more in depth in these tabs and sub-tabs to show you what it can do, how you would go ahead and add data to the website and so forth. Before I dive into this week's topic or category, I want to quick mention on the back end of your control center or in your website, there's a View Weekly Website Tutorial link up here in the upper right. So if you click that link, this opens up to our website tutorial webinar page. This has a list of all the previous webinars that we have done for you to view at your leisure. And then if you'd also like to sign up for the webinar so that you receive emails reminding you when it is you can join, you can also sign up for this weekly webinar as well. So it's a nice one-stop shop for all the previous webinars that we have done and to sign up if you would like.
okay, and before we get going into the meat of this, the other thing that I always forget to remind, and I'm remembering today, but just for if you are with us live today, I would encourage you, if you have questions as we go along, time permitting, we will answer those questions, and if time doesn't permit, well, let me backtrack and say that again. Time permitting, we'll answer those questions live. If time doesn't permit to answer them live, we will always circle around and make sure we get your questions answered afterwards. So if you have the questions, use the questions tool in the webinar tools to send them our way, and we'll tackle them as we can.
Thank you, Dave, for that reminder. So getting back to the control center here. Last week, we were under web pages, the home page tab, and we knocked out all these sub-tabs, would you say. Today, we're going to focus on, still under web pages, the services tab. We'll see what we get through today, and we might venture into another tab here, but we want to go over the printing services. And it says at the top, select and edit basically the below services that will appear on your website services page or tab. So if we quick look at my website, and I haven't done anything since last week, there is a services tab, but if you also click on view all services, it takes you to the services page. So what reflects on this page is dependent on what you do here. I don't think I have really edited any of these on my demo website. So these would be the default categories or services that show up if you haven't manipulated them in any way. What you can...
Just for a second, there's one big picture thought that I wanted to plant a seed here for people. Can I do that?
Oh, for sure.
Can you go to your demo website, if you would,
yes.
please?
Yes.
And so we're on the services page here, but if you could for a moment, go to any order form, if you would. It could be any of them. And from a print buyer's perspective, from your customer's perspective, it's just where Trish was at under the products menu. And the products, that's the business end of your website. And face covers, or face masks, that's today's thing, of course. But if we think more in a typical printed, matter of fact, if you just want to go to any of a more traditional printed item, yeah, like business cards, that custom business cards order, or really any order form, that's where the business end of it is happening. That's that finished product. But when we switch back to services here, we're looking at the things that it's more information only. How can you take a printed product and do more to it? You know, what is that service that you provide? And so what we're looking at here, we're going to talk about order forms, other webinars. That's that finished product, but put it in the context of services. I just want to kind of plant that seed that services is more about information only. Or more about the information part of your website. So if you go back to the services part of your demo website here now, you're not going to see the order forms. You're not going to see the ability to exchange information. This is about you getting information about the services that you provide, how you can modify that product, how you can add to the value of that product. And so that's the big picture from your customer's perspective of what's going on here. So I got us off the rails earlier than usual. Thanks for letting me get us there, Trish.
No, I appreciate that, Dave. It's good to be able to distinguish that this, like you said, is not pointing to an order form, but it's relating to what you provide as part of maybe your order forms and your products. Um, so if we go back on the back end here in the Control Center services page, again, these are the default ones that we provide. You can, if you know right away, depending on if you want to open them up and look what's in there, you can decide, I don't do CD, DVD duplication. You could say turn off. That entire service, that category of that service will not show up in your services dropdown. So you can go ahead right away if you want to peruse and maybe you want to quickly turn off a category as a whole. You can create a new category. So if you select create a new category, you can give it a name. The image alt text would be used for screen readers so that they can see or tell those folks that use screen readers what the image is. And then you select image, this is on your browser on your side, what image do you have for whatever service this is. So this is a way for you to create a new category or a new service that isn't down in this list. So with ones that are existing, or let's say you have added one, when you open up a main service, so we're going to use bindery and finishing as an example, we provide an image for that service, and then there are sub-services or subcategories. If you would like to edit the images that are available, if you say edit category, you can change the image that is there from what we provide. If you want to update the category name, you can certainly do that. So it's not limited. You can change up what we have showing, the image and the category name. These would be considered, whether you want to call it subservices, subcategories under the bindery and finishing services. You can turn on or, well, on or off. So if you have any that are on, you can simply toggle them off and it goes to the bottom. If you want to turn one back on, just like I did, you would select the on button and toggle that one back on. The arrows here, this allows you to drag and drop in any order that you want these to show up on the services page. I just threw collating back at the top there. If you want to edit a service that we have, if you select edit, you can update the title, you can update the text that is there. And similar, if you were to select add a new service or add new service, actually I'm going to go down and show you that just in a little different one here. But you can add a new service. But you can edit, turn on and off, and you can rearrange the order of all of the subservices under a main service. Just for a different example, letterpress. I see someone might be doing some embossing, some die cutting, whatever it is. Again, you can edit the category, but what's nice is if you want to add a new service, you're able to add in the title and the text, and maybe I'll just throw this in to show you how this would be perceived. Add service. It shows up at the bottom right away. Again, you can move this newly added service in any order that you would like. If you need to go back in there and edit, you can. You can turn it off. The ones that you have added, there will be a delete button, so you can easily delete that, and there's a little, you sure you want to do this kind of thing. So you're able to also delete the ones that you add. So we encourage you, with all of these services that we provide, go ahead and look through them, make sure, do I want to add a service? Do I want to turn any off that I maybe not provide? And then decide if you have a whole service that you may not need. I see every once in a while the CD DVD duplication is turned off. I suppose at some point in the near future that's going to be obsolete completely from our world, but until then, I know that that is still done because I still make copies of CDs on my own sometimes. But so go through and again, feel free to make sure that you go through, turn off the things that are not applicable, leave the ones that are turned on. And I'm going to say kind of two parts to this. Part one is really going through this page and making sure that the services that you provide are listed. A part two, and this will be for a future webinar, there is a navigation tab on the left here, and there is a services tab in there. And what you can do is if you scroll down on the services tab, the ones that you have turned on, you can actually rearrange the order of these so that they show up in the order that you want under your services tab right here. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to move letterpress to the top, and I'm going to select save, and then I'm going to refresh my home page or the page that I was on. And now if I go to services, there you see letterpresses at the top. So you might be wondering, well, why did she jump around, or where did Trish go? Again, I was under the services tab, still under web pages. This is where you can add, turn on and off, and so forth. But if you drop down to navigation tabs, there's a services tab, and when you scroll down, you are able to turn on and off if you happen to not want some of these to show up under your services tab. But I want to show you that you can change the order. So maybe I have a top 3 services that I provide. I want to make sure that that is listed at the top of that drop down. I see a lot of mailing that goes on. Maybe you want to have mailing at the top. This is for you to change up how you would like. You would save that. And then whatever order shows up here will show up on your services drop down. So now under my services drop down, I have mailing and then letterpress. So that's kind of part 2, would you say, without getting too deep, is what order do you want your services to show up under that services tab? So if we go back here,
Part one there, if you could, just for a second.
yes,
Because there's one thing that you said that actually back to the part one, the main services list, the services tab. Yeah, there.
yep,
So the one thing that you had said, which you correctly said, is turn off the services that you don't provide. But I would also encourage you to think bigger than yourself too. And you probably are, but it's worth hearing again. Is if there are services that others can provide, services that you have access to that others can do for you. If you don't have the big, huge bindery and finishing department that you want to have, but some of those bigger bindery projects, you have a partner, list that. Add that in because your customers know that you can do that. Even if you don't do that hands-on yourself, you still provide that service indirectly. So I guess what I'm saying there is just make sure you're not selling yourself short. If you're bigger than, you can be bigger than what you might be by showing all those services that you have access to. The other thing that I wanted to mention here too is this is the very mechanical part of it. Everything that Trish is showing you is spot on. This is where you edit and manage and create and everything to do with those services. But as the soapbox that I so often get on is to remind you that this is not only for your human visitors, but also the Google robots and all the other search engine visitors too. So this is the starting point. Everyone has that exact same starting point. Take a few minutes when you have some of that slow time, go through each individual service and find out the way that you can alter that to really tell your story, because that's going to be valuable to make you more unique from that search engine perspective. Is it the one thing that makes you rise 3 pages and 2 spots in the ranking of the search engines? Maybe, maybe not, but you're not going to know until you try. So it's a good idea to make it unique here.
yeah. Dave, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point to mention about when out there crawling on the web. One other thing I wanted to mention, and it does say here, just in case you happen to see what the heck, when you add a category, you need to have at least one active service within here before it appears on your website. So meaning, if I was to add a new category, you want to make sure you have at least one active or turned on subcategory or subservice in there before that appears on your website. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you add a main category, we expect you, or you should at least have one subservice in there. So you're not just having a main category. You want to tell a story or tell something about that main category that you're putting in there. So with that, I know some of our past webinars we've gone over, taken away your time maybe. I don't think we want to go over today because not every single webinar has to go a full 20 or even over to 25 because we want to respect your time. We know that you're busy. So with that, I think it's a good time to call it quits as far as we don't want to venture and probably do another tab today, I would say, and see if we have any questions that are coming out.
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions come in yet, but I think it is worth just recapping kind of that big picture. So if you're an existing subscriber or a brand new subscriber, but in any scenario, if this is your kind of the first deeper look at this, I would encourage you, just as Trish did, just to recap that. If there's categories that you don't do or don't have access to, just turn off the whole category. Make that your first pass. And then after you've done that, come back in and look at the categories that remain and tweak those as you need to by turning off the individual services within a category or adding or editing, whatever you need to do. Make it a two-pass event.
Those are some good points, Dave. So I don't want to keep making up time here, but if you have any questions after we end this webinar, of course, you can still call our 1-800 number, 1-800-736-0688. You can also email our tech support email, which is techsupport@mi4p.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with any questions you have or that might be lingering from today's webinar.
Well, give us 5 seconds more of your time. We can end it there, but if you give us just that 5 more seconds after the webinar ends, we do have a survey. Just give us that quick feedback or that longer feedback if you want. There's a spot for you to provide more information or more questions, more comments, but it can just literally take those 5 seconds to give us that quick ranking. That helps us know if we're going in the right direction for you too. So that's where we end it today.
All right, thank you all and take care. Bye.